Who are the coolest dudes on the planet?
United States veterans.
What's the coolest sport on the planet?
Pro wrestling.
And what would be the coolest podcast on the planet? That would be this one.
U.S. military vets talking pro wrestling.
This is the No Shave Man Cave. Two badass disabled vets sharing their love of pro wrestling, giving you their perspective as fans, talking about current events and matches, history of titles, and who knows what else. Let's do it.
Welcome to the No Shave Men Cave. Now your hosts, Ellie Jair and Jay Tilley.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, wrestling fans, and sports entertainment fans, welcome to the No Shade Man Cave. I'm Ellie Jair.
Hey, I'm Jay Tilley.
And I wasn't in San Diego, but I tell you what, if I was, woo-wee, I would have had to wear earplugs, man. What did you think about that crowd? My goodness.
Yeah, man. I wish that crowd was in Las Vegas because, yeah, that crowd was insanely hot. They were just up for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Now, granted, they walked into an amazing show, which is funny because when we previewed it, we had nothing. And here it turned out to be this show of shows, man.
Yeah.
It was a
near
perfect Dynamite for me.
Man, that was... Yeah, this, regardless of what the ratings were, and I was just looking at the ratings and the demographics and stuff from last year, this time, I think the ratings are whatever it is, and I think you and I watch wrestling much the same as a lot of our fans is, like, you may have it on your phone while you're in your truck, or you might, be on your laptop while you're having a cigar or, burning some meat, something. And it's not always sitting down on TBS or TNT or Fox or USA. But I understand ratings are like a baseline. But man, let's just go with the ear test. And that was an awesome crowd, a fantastic show. I think this is, and like you said, I wish this show was their go-home show. I think this was their best show so far this year.
Yeah, I would agree. Somebody else tweeted that out. Maybe it was Michael Hamflett from What Culture, one of the only podcasts out there worth a fuck, according to MJF. But that's just because he hadn't heard ours yet. But that's all right. We'll let him hold the glory for a little bit.
There it is.
Now, he tweeted the same thing, and I started kind of brainstorming, like, all right, actually, he said over the last 12 months. And I started kind of brainstorming, like, man, we had one that was like near perfect recently, but I actually think this one was better. Like this Dynamite did such a good job of that episodic TV thing where it laid out storylines. It laid out, you had some blow-away, amazing matches on it. With Bandito, Lucha Brothers, Blackpool Combat Club at the beginning. Like, holy crap. And then Yuta gets another pin.
I was going to say,
talk about
dude,
pushing somebody to the...
Yeah. Talk about, just like what you were going to say, sending him to the moon. That old boy's got a rocket on his back. He just got a pin the other day on a pay-per-view in the main event. Not main
over
event.
Kenny Omega.
Yeah, in the main event. Over Kenny Omega, and now this. Super happy for him. And what trajectory does this make you feel like we're on with this particular, like, from the past, other factions and pushes and all this other stuff? What does this kind of oddly remind you of? You got to put your WWE brain on.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Gotta ruin it. This feels like Evolution. And at some point, Yuta...
Thumbs down.
Is going... Yeah, so like when Claudio picked him up on his shoulders, I was like, ooh. So, I thought this match was fantastic. Great way to start. I love that, 45-minute vertical suplex that he was holding him with one arm and everything. I just, this was both great wrestling and I don't want to call it sports entertainment, but it was very, very entertaining. And, kudos to you, months and months ago talking to me, before Forbidden Door, talking me into, hey, man, just enjoy it, watch it. And man, every time I watch AEW, I'm reminded of something that happened in a previous show, and I go back and go, oh yeah, okay, so the connecting files are there, and like you said, perfect episodic television. This was a very, very fun show, and the only thing that kept this from I'll get into it more, but yeah, this was a very, very fun show. Great opening match, and the crowd was in it from start to finish.
Yeah, that opening match was definitely what you call a hot opener, because man, they blew the roof off. I mean, of course, look at the people involved, right? Bandito, fantastic, amazing wrestler. The Lucha Brothers, one of the best tag teams in the world, right there with the Young Bucks. And then you got Yuta and Moxley and Claudio, who can all go. And Yuta, not only being strapped and going to the moon, his improvement from when he started to now is amazing. I think them sending him to Japan last year for the G1 or whatever, I don't remember if it was G1, but he went into one of the Japan tournaments and spent a decent time in Japan. And it was funny because everybody in the States were talking about, like the AEW fans, like, oh, they pushed Yuta. And it was right after I think it was right after he joined the BCC, and it was all, well, they did this, and now they've shipped him off, and his push is done. Well, he came back from that looking like a completely different wrestler and elevated the BCC, and now, and I said it, I've tweeted it, I've talked to you about it. You want to show, hey, this guy's worth watching? Have him get out of a One Wing and Angel, have him kick out of the Buckshot Lariat, and then have him pin Kenny Omega, and then the next night have him pin Bandito, and tell me he's not a wrestler that's going to go be doing something eventually.
Oh, 100%.
I think
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand keeping in the BCC right now because he's got to work on his talking. He's got to work on some of the other fundamentals, as JR would call them, because he's not there on the mic yet. He's not blow away, like cutting a promo like MJF. Granted, I don't know that anybody can. However, he working with Bryan Danielson, working with Moxley, working with Claudio, even though he's not always on the mic. He can be on the mic. But working with those guys, he's just going to learn how to get better and better. And a year from now, at Double or Nothing 2024, we could absolutely be sitting here talking about Yuta in a program for the world title and how amazing it is. Or, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it could. Like, I could see the year growth in him because it's just what AEW does in general for their young talent and their new talent blows me away. Like, you hear people, oh, well, they need NXT, and why? AEW does not need a version of NXT. They don't need it because they're doing it anyway. And I think that the growth you see in, and you could list them, we both could list them, Anna Jay, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, I'll even put MJF on there because he really, yes, he was good when he got there, but he's still growing. I think he learned a lot from Punk when Punk was in the company, or is in the company, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Ricky Starks, Sammy Guevara, Julia Hart, who else can we name? Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia. I mean, I could keep going on and on of these young talent that as the Chris Jerichos and the Moxleys and the Danielsons and the Punks and the Omegas start stepping back and going, all right, I'm done. I'm getting ready to retire. I'm going to take a less role. I'm going to be like Roman Reigns and work once a month. These guys can step up and carry this company on their back. I mean, those 10 people, Jade Cargill's another one. There's 11 people. Not Taya Valkyrie, Sammy's wife, Taya Mello.
Oh,
you've got her, Penelope Ford, Kip Sabian, the Butcher, the Blade. Like, I could keep going and going with these names that,
yeah, that's crazy.
If it wasn't for AEW, would be probably still working in indie somewhere, and we'd never know about them unless you're busting out VHS tapes like we used to when we were kids.
Some tape trading. I think the crazy thing too is think about, so AEW, its inception, and then for 2 years you're in this pandemic. They're doing shows at Daly's Place to 1,000 people, then 2,500, then 3,000, and then when we were there it was like 8,500. And it's like, you went from doing one show, then you had some tapings, and then you were putting stuff on YouTube, to now you have your Ring of Honor tapings, you have your Dark and your Dark Elevation, you have, now you're going to have 2 shows that are 2 hours long, and your Rampage. So I think just like what you're saying, this is their, like, those extra, what would that be, like 3 hours between Dark Elevation, and Rampage. That's their 3 hours of their version of NXT, and they're not having to learn a new style when they get called up to the main roster, because they're learning the same style. And, you mentioned Daniel Garcia, and Daniel Garcia has not only grown as a wrestler, but he's grown so much as a wrestler that he can also portray a sports entertainer and make that character work. Sammy Guevara is like playing both sides of the fence right now. I think he's about to pop off with the babyface run, and that's just going to go.
His wife's having a baby,
yeah. So I think that's going to go to the moon. I don't know that he'll be in the talks with the TNT title, because he's already done that a couple times. But it's a really good time. Dude, we didn't even mention Orange Cassidy.
Oh, yeah, Orange
and
Cassidy.
Like, he is
I'm sure there's a ton of other. Sky Blue, Willow Nightingale.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean,
just imagine.
Like I said, the list could go on and on.
Yeah. Oof, crazy.
And oh man, yeah. And they've got what is it? Billy Starks coming.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't think of the young guy's name. Jimmy. I always forget his name, and I watch his stuff all the time. But yeah, they've got these. Oh yeah, he's one too. But no, the young 18-year-old who just graduated. There's actually a match with him and Billy Starks out there. That's fantastic. Okay. It's like a match of the. What do they call it? Match of the generational talents or something like that. Or the prodigy match or something like that. But, he's coming up. You got Preston Vance. Yes, you don't see him as much, but he's pretty damn good. He's a good big guy. Wardlow. Wardlow's a perfect example of somebody off the street coming in and being someone that, again, is just growing leaps and bounds. So, yeah, fantastic stuff. All that out of the first match.
Yeah,
and you got to the rest of the stuff on this show.
Phew.
But the show was just amazing. You talk about the little things that matter and the little things you pick up on. So we had the opening match. Cool. Loved it. And we always talk about how, we're going to start doing these. We're not going to go card by card. But everything on this card's worth talking about right now. So, because the next thing you've got is the Elite backstage selling the fact that, we lost. Or, yeah, we're hurt. We're beat up. Matt Jackson getting his foot taped up. And I'm like, God, I can't I've stepped on one tack. I can't imagine having my foot driven into. Anyway, talking about how hurt he is, and they're hurt. And then the comment, then the Dark Order walk up. And I'm like, okay, so they're not just going to drop the whole Heyman was a Dark Order friend. And I loved the torment, like, Heyman, I need to go talk to these guys, and Alex Marvez keeping him back. And he's like, no, I really need to, like, they're pissed off, and they're my buddies, I need to go talk to them. So what are they going to do with that? Are we going to actually see a Dark Order versus the Elite down the road? Are we going to see, it's just all those connected fibers. And then I love the line of, Kenny Omega's hurt, and he's beat up, and he's not here. And then Marvez, did he go home to Canada? Well, he didn't go to Canada, but he's out of country. Where could he be?
Where else does he
because
like
later
to
in
go?
The night, where is he a dual citizen of? Because later in the night, Don Callis straight up drops Okada's name, so you get Okada's name dropped if you could hear it over the chorus of booze.
Man, Don got crazy heat. And, there's so many different scenarios that you could run with that angle. So I think that's super smart where, sometimes they'll just get fixated on one storyline and focus all their energy on that storyline and everything else sucks. But there's so many different storylines, and they're even building great stories on the women's side. And, Chris Statlander shows up. She wins the TBS title. And she comes out, has a great match with the Native Beast. Great match. And then you have Taya Valkyrie in the back watching. And I was like, this is a really cool angle because Taya can play a heel like nobody's business. And she can come out and say, I came here, I wanted to do this for the fans, but now I'm just doing this for me because the fans suck or whatever it is that she's going to say. And, that would be a really great program that they could run. Plus now everything that they're doing with the outcasts and the OGs, like, man, this is just a really cool time. And you said this months ago before all the talking heads started saying it, like, we are about to hit this golden era of wrestling, even to the point where this roster's so strong that they have a trios title that has teams that are trios. It's not just like three dudes thrown together. Now, yes, they have had three dudes thrown together, some homegrown talents.
Don't make it weird.
Yeah, not weird. And, just to, build the House of Black up. But, man, it is a really, really good time. AEW is doing a lot of really good things, and they should absolutely be commended. Kudos to the team back there, and I hope that, things don't get all cattywampus as we get ready to roll into the debut of Collision. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree. The roster split, keeping them separate, I guess if that's the necessity to keep it going, that's fine. I still want it all to be a work. It's just my wishful thinking because we'll skip ahead a little bit and talk about the Don Callis thing because Don Callis talked about building a new family and he's got Takeshita. And I'm like, how amazing would it be down the road he shows up and Punk is part of that family too. And they could work this whole thing to blow out, which I'm sure happened and I'm sure tempers flared. But how awesome if they worked it into a storyline and you find out that Don Callis helped orchestrate all that just to start breaking up the Elite and everything. Like there are stories if these guys would man up and I'm not saying they haven't yet because they might have, but go make some money with this because there's a lot of money to be made because the Elite could roll out of this BCC thing right into another feud with Punk, Takeshita, Don Callis, and, give him 2 or 3 more people under his belt. Let's say he brings in, I don't know, Miro and FTR maybe. He brings in some group and now you've got Don Callis and his group versus the Elite. And they're already starting to plant that seed now to where it could bloom. By next summer, we're sitting here fanboying over, Don Callis' group versus the Elite. And Ibushi and Okada versus, whoever on the other side. So, interesting stuff.
Yeah, there's so many options and, the size of the roster, the eclectic talent that's on the roster, the working relationships that they have with New Japan and AAA. But then again, you don't have the working relationship with New Japan and AAA amongst themselves. So that those wrestlers need to be managed separately, but you can go on and have those awesome matches with Vikingo putting in the work. Then you can turn around and have those awesome matches like what we're going to see on Forbidden Door. It's just so awesome to be. If I were a wrestler now and I was on the cusp of making it out of the indies from those small promotions, and I was about to hop over to a wrestling company that had a TV deal, I would do everything I could to get over to either AEW or Ring of Honor. Because if I got on with Ring of Honor, I knew eventually I would be able to show up on AEW because of all the different talent and just the different styles that you could work with. And styles make fights. And I tell you, you talk about styles and fights and, wrestlers. I can't wait to see what Jade Cargill looks like when she goes away and comes back, because that entrance during Double or Nothing, that was straight up babyface. And
it was so good.
Like, man, I can't stop singing that damn song.
Like
all the pretty girls walk like this. I don't even walk like that. Now I do. Damn it. So kudos
I
to
guess I'm a pretty girl.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great time, great company, and yeah, this was, again, we're only 2 matches in to the show, and the crowd was just on point, and yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, you mentioned the AAA New Japan thing and them not working together, but did you see the card for Rampage? Dude, we're getting the AAA title defended with Vikingo, Dralisico, and Commander, and you want to watch a luchador match? That's the kind of match that's going to make Jim Cornette shit himself because he's going to hate it so much, but it's going to be fantastic. But then you've also got the New Japan Women's Heavyweight title being defended by Willow Nightingale on that show. Plus, you got Ring of Honor Pure Champion Shibata defending, this is the best booked Rampage coming on Friday than I've ever seen, other than maybe the Punk appearance on the first one. So, they're talking about Rampage is dying and we're going to move it to, it's going to be like a dark elevation. Well, what a way to go out on a bang. Holy cow, it's going to be a hell of a show on Friday night.
Yeah, definitely not something to be upset about. Seeing Willow Nightingale, great looking title too, by the way. Kudos to her. Really excited to see what she's going to be able to do with that title. And that AAA match, just, whew, that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a really good show.
Yep. But back to Wednesday. Shiny object, make the U-turn. The next match on the card was the Big Bill, Swerve Strickland, and Trent Beretta. And talk about a fan service match. This was absolutely the three guys who went above and beyond in the Battle Royal, and putting them in a match to just go at it. And I'll tell you what, if they're not getting ready to build up Big Bill for something, maybe go after Wardlow, then they're wasting it, because he was amazing in the Battle Royal. The way he eliminated all of our favorites and then mocked them and made a big deal about it was so WWE, but like the perfect kind of WWE way, and it fit. And then to roll into this match, and obviously you want Swerve to win, because just by the 30 seconds of interaction between Orange Cassidy and Swerve, we want that match. And I think Swerve's going to be the one to take the championship from him. I think Orange loses to Swerve.
What? Wow, that literally came out of nowhere. We were talking just the other day about Jay White and, some of the other options that you could do. And, Swerve has a great showing in a match that you and I generally don't care for. And it's now started this potential trajectory to the top of the roster. And I definitely don't think that would be the wrong decision, because he is so multifaceted, and he has other projects outside of AEW, and that would, continue to elevate the international title and put it in different parts of the entertainment world that would give it, I don't want to say new life, but a different set of eyes looking at it like, oh, that's a pretty sweet belt. That's not a belt. That's a title. This is my international title. And he goes on he's got a radio show and some other stuff. So yeah, I thought this was a really good outing for all of them. And I didn't really think about the starting to build Big Bill up, but yeah, I mean, that does make sense with as much TV time as he's been getting, and some of the moves that he was getting in, especially during that Battle Royal. That, I mean, who wouldn't want to see those two big bulls going at it? So hell yeah.
Well, the other potential is you're building him up and Moriarty for a run at the tag titles after Jay White and Juice Robinson get done with FTR, because obviously that's next. Well, I mean, they called him out. That was the next segment. But in the back of my head, I always thought the Swerve Strickland Orange Cassidy match would be, that'd be something like down the road to see. But, it's one of those you don't really think about. And then Tony gives it to us and you're like, oh, I really want to see this more. And we talk about the Battle Royal and AEW. I don't think any of that was on accident. Like, I don't think Big Bill showing out was an accident. I don't think Swerve and the chemistry those two had, I don't think Tony Khan just went, we'll see how they do. I think it was absolutely like, all right, I think he thought these out, and he kind of, I don't want to say predicted, but had an idea how the fans would react, and is using that and going with it. So, yeah, I think Swerve kind of came out of left field, but I'm okay with it. Let him finish the feud with Dustin Rhodes and Keith Lee first, though. Like, I need to see that match, because I think that's going to be a great match. I think it's weird that Keith Lee shows up, does a match or two, and then disappears for 3 or 4 weeks, and then comes back and then leaves. I don't know what all that's about, but whatever. Let's have their blow-off match, get them done, and then give me a best out of 7 series between Swerve and Orange Cassidy.
Ooh-wee. That would be something for the ages. And so we like to sit and fantasy book, and just like what you were saying, you were like, I like Lee Moriarty, I liked what he did, in his previous life and other companies that he worked in, and Swerve, he did a couple other things, and Limitless Keith Lee, he's had some great matches or whatever, but then they show up and show out on these matches that you didn't even know that you wanted, but now that you've got them, you're like, wait a minute, can you do it in a tag team match, or can you do it in a Falls Count Anywhere, or can you do it in a cage, or whatever it is? And it's just very, very creative booking. And when we get to Collision and you have Bryan Danielson and you have CM Punk and you have the work that Tony is already doing behind stage, I mean, it's going to be great. And hopefully you'll see Mark Henry continue to work with the big guys, because the big guys are doing really well with the smaller guys, and the match quality is not anywhere where I thought it would be. It's way above, and I'm just ecstatic to see, the quality of matches that we're seeing, and kudos to all the producers and all the work that the wrestlers are putting. I'd love to see the training sessions or the rehearsals that they're doing before. Maybe I wouldn't, because then I don't want to see how the sausage is made, but they're putting in work. Their timing is really good, minus the Hardys. And I think we should really embrace what we're seeing and bid farewell to the Hardys and move on and do some great things. So, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think the Hardys are going to get another tag team run, but that's just... And they deserve a good goodbye run match. I hope they do a retirement announcement match and they give them someone like the Bucks or FTR or someone that can help. I don't want to say carry them, because they deserve more respect for that, but carry them through a match. But yeah, great stuff. Then we had the Don Callis segment. And it's funny that like we've coined the Dom Dom reaction. Like you have the Legion of Doom pop. Now you've got the Dom Dom boos, because they absolutely booed that man out of the building. I had to turn the subtitles on because I couldn't hear what he was saying coming across the TV. But he basically talks about bringing in his new family and they're going to destroy Kenny Omega. And I love the line, "I'm going to take the elite out of all elite wrestling." I'm like, man, that's good stuff right there. And, he even drops Okada's name and how Takeshita's better. And immediately I went, oh my God, yes, please let me see that match. I want to see Okada and Takeshita go at it. I want to see Takada and Omega go at it. We've seen Takada and Hangman, so I'll see that again. But yeah, there's so many. He's such a... Takeshita is such a good... I said Takada. I guess I merged them two into one name. That's all right. I'm tired. Takeshita versus Okada would be good. But and again, I said it, man. I would love for like CM Punk to pop up and go, hoo-hoo, I was all part of this too. And, the fallout of All Out was all orchestrated by Don Callis, and it was all to get, and then just the mega heat you're going to get.
Oh my God. He
would play those guys against each other.
He would get like death threats. He would get eviscerated on every platform. He would, he would even like, oh man, I can't even put into words if we thought Dom Dom Heat was bad, and then you have Don Don Heat, like, oh man. And, and truth be told, I could honestly, and this is borderline rude, I could care less if CM Punk comes back. But if they can swerve it and twist it and turn it and start printing money, then that would be a note to Britt and Thunder Rosa. Leave your egos in the locker room. Let's come out into the ring. You both have bad backs. You both have an axe to grind. We have some kind of gimmick match to have a blow off to get all of the angst out, and they shake hands and move on, and they have a final blow off match to this feud, and we never talk about it again. So I think if CM Punk can keep his nose clean, and wherever Ace Steel is going to have to be located, because he's with the company but he's not allowed to be around, or he's not allowed to be around like ringside, or I don't know, he's got some kind of...
He's not allowed in the building while the elite's there, or something like that. Yeah,
so
I don't know, man. That's why, like, part of me wonders how, because it all seems a little childish, and that's why in my head I'm going, come on, these are grown ass men. Like, how much of this is real heat or manufactured media heat to make it all seem more dramatic?
Yeah.
But you talk about Don Heat. What does it remind? Like, you hit me with this earlier. What does this remind you of, though? If you think in the past on heat getters and like death threats and everything like that. Like, I think of some specific era / territory, let's say, that did this very well.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, when Don was trying to get a word out edgewise during the interview, I was thinking, this is like, back in the day when Sergeant Slaughter turned and became a heel and associated himself with the Sheik and Volkov, and, how touchy that whole thing was. And then probably the greatest heel talker on the planet has got to be considered, even back in his Portland days, is got to be Roddy Piper. And just just how he would get so much heat. And like he said, Just when you figure out the rules of the game, I change the rules, or he changed the game, or, whatever that quote was. And man, just phenomenal. Like, he reads the room so well, and he's got a really good mind, and him working alongside the Bryan Danielsons and the Kenny Omegas, and, like, you listen to some of the wrestlers talk about the learning tree, dude. Like, he didn't leave on a good note with Impact. Don Callis didn't, but I tell you, he's left a very, very good impression on AEW, and the work that he's doing to make some of these stories like Mucho and Fuego like very hot. And if this turns out where they can put their egos aside and turn up the money press with Punk, god damn. Woo!
Think about, so if let's say they finish off this BCC stuff going into, like, let's say Forbidden Door or whatever. Let's say they do a blow-off match at Forbidden Door and they end it there, which they could take it to All In. But if they ended it early and you decide to go with the Don Callis crew versus the Elite and rolling that into All In, you don't think Punk and Omega in your main event would sell? Or how about Takeshita and Okada? You throw those two in there together, or you do. There's just so many like money making things, and if they bring an FTR to it, you set up the Young Bucks FTR too, and there's just so much they can do.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Like I said, it's just printing money, and hopefully, like I said, it's a work. If it's not, it's not. Like you, I was a major Punk fan, but after those shenanigans and everything, I kind of was like, meh. I think the guy's got a brilliant mind for the business.
That's what hurts. Like, yeah, I mean, and if it's like, oh, well, this got blown out of proportion. Okay, well, you were with the company for a week or two, and people were already talking about how you were rubbing people wrong. You left on a bad note from Ring of Honor. You left on a bad note from WWE. You were almost terminated from AEW, and, I don't, yeah.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of, so I know of a guy, really, really super intelligent, like knows his business very well. I'm not going to get into too many details because I don't want to give away who this person is, but knows his details very well. Very, very good at that. However, has zero social skills. Doesn't know how to react to social situations. Doesn't always, so he'll speak his mind / what he's thinking, not realizing that somebody will take offense to it because it just doesn't click that way. That's what he reminds me of. Somebody who's got this genius wrestling brain, but I'll walk into the room and go, dude, you look like shit. Not realizing that the guy,
could be going,
took offense to that.
Yeah.
Or, right. Or vice versa. He takes something like a promo cut in the ring that, is part of your storyline that Hangman did, and takes it real personal and holds it in and bottles it up and then explodes all over the place about it. Don't make it weird. Ooh. But, and that's what he reminds me of, is that kind of personality where he's got the genius there, but maybe doesn't always know the right way to handle his emotions, I guess is the way to do it.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to put it. And I hope, I don't necessarily think Ace Steel is the right guy. Maybe they give him a sidekick that is, the voice of reason until he can, calm down. He's in his 40s, so there's a good chance that he's not going to change at all. And,
right.
Someone like a Mark Henry, who's like, he wants to keep the peace. He leads quietly with a firm hand, and, Mark Henry learned from The Undertaker and Ron Simmons and, just some of the best leaders in professional wrestling and different walks of life. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that they can make it work. And just imagine seeing FTR and the Bucks, and maybe they do like a best of 7 like they did with the trios championships, or maybe they just do a best of 3 or whatever. But man, that's just going to be magic on the tube. I can't wait.
I know we're going off on a tangent on the All Out stuff, which happened like almost a year ago, but I think Tony Khan's a little he needs to be held to this a little bit too, because as we know, treat everybody the same. You treat everybody equal. then there's no footing to stand on. And the stories of Punk coming in and saying he doesn't want to share a locker room, so they gave him a private locker room, or this and that, and he bent for those, then that's kind of on him. Like, as a leader of a locker room and a leader of a team, which he should kind of know this doing the Jaguars, but you would think he would go, hey man, I understand, but I can't let you do that because it's going to ostracize you from the group. Maybe occasionally if it's storyline driven because I want to keep you away from them, whatever, but he could have, I think, maybe stamped some of this down. And again, young promotion, right? Like, I guarantee you back in Mid-South, they had issues like this that came up and sprung up and the people worked through it. But it is what it is, and, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about Collision. I think it's going to be a fun show. I'm excited to see some of the people like Andrade and Miro and some of these people that they just don't have room for on the roster right now.
Yep, 100%.
So that'll be good. Then we got to, I think, at this point, we're only at our second match of the night. I feel like it's a WWE card, but it's the Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy versus the Gates and Agony. Oh, what the fuck, man?
Jeez.
Oh my God, talk about bumping your asses off. Man, two big dudes who just murdered Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, but yet they won, and it was a hell of a match. You had Swerve come out and I was going to say Johnny Cage, but you know what I mean. It's just, man, they went crazy. And then the Return of Returns, the Sting shows up, and I popped for that too. Man, I jumped up. Yes. Oh wait, I'm at home. I'm not in the audience.
Yeah.
And we were there for when he appeared the first time.
Oh man.
At Daly's place. So I still pop though when I see him. And now I'm going, all right. Rumors are he wants to wrap up. So they brought him out in this feud. So what are we setting up? Are we setting up Darby and Sting versus the Gates of Agony? Are we setting, I'm curious where this is going to go. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this one's going yet. Because the Gates of Agony to me aren't a top level team. However, I do feel like this specific Dynamite show was kind of like the season premiere, right? So they put new storylines in play or continued storylines.
That's a good
They kind of started new things. And if we're getting ready to open up a whole nother roster on Collision, why not bring Gates Agony and Brian Cage, that's his name, Brian Cage in and have them as prominent members. And, there was a story a while back that Brian Cage thought he was leaving and then got an extension. So maybe this was all part of that talk. Like, hey, give me time. I'm working things. And here it is. Here's the fruits of the labor. We're going to have you prominent on TV, on Dynamite or Collision if he moves over there. So I think it was good work. Good stuff. Got a little MJF package, which is always entertaining. Hook. Jungle Boy hooked back up. So cool. Whatever it is, what it is. Didn't really have much to say about that one.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. It was a picture for a little while. And dude.
Yeah, I like those two paired up. You and your commercials.
No,
man.
I was just like, okay, what are we going to do? You just had Jungle Jack in a title match. And now you're putting him with a title that a wrestler made for himself 20 years ago, gave it to his son, and now he's just carrying it around. It's like, okay, you just competed for the world title. Maybe figure out what to do. Maybe this is the way to turn Jungle Jack, and, you build up Hook into this uber babyface more so than he already is. He becomes almost interesting, and then Jungle Jack whacks him, becomes a heel, and now he'll never get the Don heat, but he'll get the Jungle Jack heat, and, we figure out what we're going to do. But it's just I don't know.
I think what they're doing is trying to reset and re-establish the tag division. So I think you're going to have Hook and Jungle Boy as a tag team. Gates of Agony are coming in as a tag team. Mm-hmm. The Acclaimed announced that they want to go back to, being tag team. At least that's what it kind of sounded like they're hitting at. You got the Guns coming up. So I think FTR, if this truly is going to be their last run before they retire, I think maybe they're like, hey, we want some tag teams to go against, and here are some names that we like to work with. I just a feeling. I don't know for sure. I don't, but there are a couple things like that, and the Gates of Agony thing that made me go, okay, maybe they're going to try to reestablish some of the tag teams back up. We already kind of talked about the Chris Statler match because that was next. Yeah, got nothing to say, man. I thought it was a little funny that she's like, Mama's home. I'm like, wait, Mama, Mommy. All right, whatever.
With the sign language.
I thought that was yeah, but it was all good. I do like, and I don't remember her doing that in the past, and somebody said she's always done it, but the signing on her way to the ring, and I'm curious to do some research on what the significance on that is, if it's a family member or Maybe it's something about her we don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just curious. I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think
it's kind of a cool thing
yeah.
to do. But then we finally get to the main event, which was all right.
I mean,
Just kidding. It was
whatever.
Fire. Yeah, Britt Baker and Adam Cole and Jericho and Saraya. Holy cow, dude. Talk about... So this is what this match came off to me like. This match came off like, hey, Jericho and Cole in the back. Man, that was a great match. Yeah, man, that felt really good. Dude, we got shit on all over on Twitter. Like, everybody hated that match. What's wrong with us? Oh, we got to make up for it. And then they went out and just absolutely made up for it because this match was top tier, I wouldn't say 5-star, but good to great mixed tag team match. And you had mentioned Britt Baker's back injury. I kind of saw a little bit of it come into play. There was something, she either lifted Saraya up or something, and I could, being somebody who suffers from back injury, and I'm sure you do too, like I saw the oh God, that hurt. And I'm like, aha, I know what that is. I know what you just did. And then she kind of worked a little, stiffer is not the right word, because stiffer in wrestling means something different. Worked like she was stiff, I guess is how I'll put it.
Right.
Like she wasn't as smooth and as fluid. It was kind of a little more rigid. That's a good one. Britt Baker was rigid. Yeah, makes me rigid.
Not quite the order
whatever.
of words in said sentence, but yeah.
But yeah, I feel like, but the Cole and Jericho interactions were fire, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted from the match on Double or Nothing. And I don't know what happened in that match. I don't know if the gimmick spots didn't work the way they wanted them to work. Were they told, don't go over the top because we've got Anarchy in the Arena tonight, so we don't want to have two kind of the same matches and all that. So I don't know all that,
Yeah.
And I say that, but I don't see Tony Khan or Chris Jericho getting out political maneuvered in the back. So don't know what all the story was that, but I definitely enjoyed this main event and thought fantastic way to close the show. Don't know if it's the blow-off end of the feud. I hope so, because I'd like to see Cole move into the next thing, which I think is going to be the MJF run. But you've got Forbidden Door, which they did a little bit in teasing throughout the night on, some stuff for Forbidden Door. And then you've got All In and then All Out. So you got 3 pay-per-views coming up pretty quick succession. Maybe you set up for... Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Adam Cole's next or if they're going to go one more run with him and Jericho, maybe at All In, or if they're going to do it at All Out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the cards are going to look like, because they could have ended this here, but I don't think the Outcast and the Originals are done by far. I hope not, because I want to see Jamie Hayter come back and beat Toni Storm at her home and get this pop that is going to blow the roof off the place.
If you thought 12,000 fans in San Diego was loud, just imagine 70-something Brits, 70-something thousand British international fans when Hayter beats an Aussie for her world championship back. And, thoughts and prayers out to the Haterade. Hopefully, she's able to come back and, be as amazing as she was before the injury. But yeah, I mean, like in my mind, I was like, okay, why did Adam Cole pin Jericho? Why didn't Britt Baker pin Saraya? So, I liked how Britt got to put the lockjaw on Jericho.
Oh,
that felt like,
that was a great spot.
We can close the book on that. But then for Cole to get the pin, I was like, well, he got the win at the pay-per-view, so why does he get the pin too? So it almost sort of kind of felt like a blow-off, but at the same time, like you said, like, he could have a beef with, whatever it is. But like you said, yeah, the riff with the Outcast and Britt and Sheeta, and I don't think it'll be Hayter for a little bit, but as soon as Hayter comes back, whew, man, that's gonna be something.
Yeah, it was a great night of wrestling, man. We kind of mentioned it before we came on the air and hit the record button, but yeah, I think this was probably the best Dynamite I've seen this year.
Easy.
And that's saying something, because there were a couple really good ones this year.
Yeah, there's been quite a few, and the boys and girls have been putting out in the ring nicely, but the crowds have been dead, or the crowd was so-so, but there was some misses in the matches, or the referees were weird or whatever. Referees were great. The crowd was off the hook, and the boys and girls just brought it home, and I was just to the moon. So, and then to your question about why does Chris Statlander do the sign language and stuff, she doesn't have a real reason. She just does it.
Oh, okay.
So, but
Just something she likes to do.
So there were times when she was a heel, so she would come out and sign "FU" during. But no, I think
Nice.
I think it's going to be awesome going forward with her as your TBS champion. There, eventually Jade will come back in the next couple weeks, get a rematch, and then probably go away for an extended period of time. And then Chris will move into a program with someone before Taya, and then Taya and Chris will probably move into a program. So, but yeah, man, this was such a fun night of wrestling.
Yep.
I enjoyed it from start to finish. It was awesome.
Me too. I felt like so there was an interview. I want to say it was the Renee Paquette interview that Kenny Omega talked about when he builds his stories and he thinks about how he is doing his long-term storytelling. He looks at it like a television show, and he said he looked at cartoons like I think he actually said Batman the Animated Series and stuff like that, where you have a long-running. And it's something I've talked about too, which is cool. So I think I'm a wrestling genius, just like Kenny Omega. But he said he likes to have the long storyline, and in between you have like the baddies of the week, as he put it. And it looks like if you I'll use Batman. So Batman fights the Joker. So you've got a season of Batman against the Joker, and all season that's in the background. So you've got every episode, though, like Clayface shows up, or Robin gets hurt, or Catwoman steals something, and all this other stuff is going on, but yet you got that back underlying story. I felt like this show set up some of those ongoing stories. So I think, and Danielson did a really good job at the beginning of it when he was asked about whether Don Callis and Takeshita were part of the BCC, and he's like, well, I can't tell you that. Don's going to talk later. Well, Don never did talk about it. So Double or Nothing, when it ended, they were kind of celebrating separately, and even Mox kind of looked over and was like, why is he doing that? So interesting stuff on that, and I'm curious to see if the BCC Elite Saga is going to end and wrap up, and we're going to roll into the Kenny Omega versus Don Callis, because you can even roll that into not necessarily being an Elite thing. It could just be Kenny and Takeshita going at it, and then you add in, whoever else to make it go on. So yeah, going forward, I'm curious where those lines are going to go. So I'm interested in all that. But that's what I think this show did. I think this show laid out storylines and laid out some, hey, here's what you can look at, here's what you can do, here's what's coming up. It was like a season premiere, let's say. So we got a little continuation of last season, and then a continuation of what's coming up next.
Yeah. It's there, like you said. I mean, it's perfect because they could do 20 different things based on one little comment or one little Easter egg that they dropped, or they made a comment that it alluded to. He may or may not be going to another country. They didn't have to say it, or they
Right.
implied it. So you're like, oh man, you just gave me goosebumps. So it's there's so many different options, and it's this was not it's like whenever you're sitting there and you're asking questions, this was not a yes or no answer. This was one of the this was a really good episode to lay the foundation for if they're going to call this their new season, and then you're going to roll in and get ready for this huge pay-per-view, just groundbreaking, industry-changing program that we're going to get in Wembley. And I just,
Yep,
awesome.
100% agree. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm live chatting with one of our fans. So
Very cool.
Well, I don't know about a fan. He's tuning into us and giving us advice, so I'm listening. So, yep, appreciate the advice, man. He says you need to zoom your camera in more. You look really far away and your lighting sucks.
My lighting sucks.
I don't think he said your lighting sucks, but he insinuated that. But that's all right. That's why we're live. I want to be able to interact with the fans and get these live feedbacks. So,
Just
and
close enough for
his
you.
comment, which I actually kind of, oh yeah, there you go. His comment that I actually kind of agree with, and he says he's a friend of Brian Cage's, thought Brian Cage should have been in the Wardlow spot the whole time. And I'm sitting here thinking, he mentioned that. I'm like, yeah,
why not?
I buy that. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to see, I would have loved to have seen Brian Cage. Not that I don't think Wardlow deserves it, but Brian Cage could have absolutely been the guy with Christian Cage. Then you got the Cage Squared would have been cool. Or, that would have been a really good call. But like I said, I believe that we are going to see a little bit of more of Brian Cage personally. I hope so. And I hope that because he's been a little more prominent on TV lately. And like I said, with the roster split, I'm hoping they give him a good run. I'd like to see him and Wardlow go at it for that title, too. I think that'd be really good.
Yowza. And he can,
really good stuff.
He's not terrible on the mic either. So, I mean, that would be a lot of fun. He was pretty decent even during Lucha Underground and on Impact. So, definitely not a novice on the mic. So, absolutely. And his back looks like it's
that's
doing
one of the
a lot
comments
better,
I just made is, and that was the comment. I loved him in Lucha Underground, man. Some of that stuff he did in Lucha Underground was, I love Lucha Underground in general. Like, I wish that'd come back. Talk about like over the top, goofy storytelling stuff.
Yeah,
it was great, but I loved every minute of it. All right, we're just about an hour, and we do this all the time. We end up going over a little bit because we get talking, and like we tell you, for those of our new listeners or anybody that's tuning in, hey, we're just two disabled veterans that like to talk about wrestling. Decided to hit record and start a podcast. That has now grown into a live show every Tuesday and Thursday night from 7 to 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Rumble and YouTube. Check us out. No Shave Man Cave. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, YouTube, like I said. No Shave Man Cave. We love the feedback. We love interacting with our fans. Love the helpful advice and things we can look at for people that have been doing this longer than us and know more than us. Absolutely, we want to take that into account. Like somebody made a comment recently, my background's too busy, so I'm already looking at how to move stuff around and get some of the clutter out of it. I like some of that stuff though, man. Like I like showing off my collection, but makes sense. If it's distracting, I'll move it. So we will take care of that. And man, it's you know what time it is. It's time for the hot tag for the closer. Here you go, brother.
Bump and feed. Yes, sir. Hey, come check us out on Saturdays on our Fantasy Sports Corp show live on YouTube. We are there from 8 to 9 talking nothing but professional wrestling. And yeah, we squeeze in some bourbon and barbecue as well. So thank you to the Fantasy Sports Corp for helping us show out when we show up. So for sure, to all our brothers and sisters in arms, thank you so much for your service. Some gave all, and all gave some. Till next time, fam, friends, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you on the floor.
You've been listening to the No Shave Men Cave.
If it's pro wrestling, we're talking about it. Unless we see something shiny and wander off into the woods. If you hang around long enough, we'll eventually come back. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Fire off your comments and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at No Shave Men Cave. Y'all be cool, and we'll see you next time on the No Shave Men Cave.